The Chicago White Sox finished the first half of the season in first place by sweeping away the Oakland Athletics, but in the process, drafting two highly touted rookies in the MLB draft and added two additional All Stars. On the north side, the Chicago Cubs completed a much needed series win at Cincinnati and have a much needed break in the process, trying to climb up to the top of the NL Central. In basketball, Caleb Wilson made a strong debut in the Chicago Bulls uniform in the Summer League. In the NFL, we'll tell you which players to look out for in the breakout performance style in 2026. We'll have a World Cup soccer update. Tennis and Wimbledon wrapped up over the weekend, and we'll salute the city of Philadelphia for Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more as Second City Sports on Monday Extravaganza starts now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keep him on the field. And this one, a drive into left center field. Going back is Churio at the wall. Get out! Robert Jr., his fourth of the season. And the Sox take the lead 2-1.
Armstrong gets into another one. Sends Edman back. He's watching it land in the stands. What a night from Pete Crow Armstrong. Goes wide, up the guard again. And he scores. What a play!
On Jordan Bennington, no chance at all for the Blues netminders. Connor Bedard. Wow.
Getting what a pass. Buzelis with the fade on the drive.
Motions left. They're blitzing. It's picked up. Caleb throws. Middle of the field. Loveland catch. Breaks away the 30. Loveland 20. Loveland 10. Loveland end zone. Touchdown Bears.
Welcome to another fun-filled Monday Extravaganza edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown over here, you know it's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, here's again the IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you're watching us live in the living color on YouTube, after you like the video, if you can, please hype the video so we can get this content out to as many people as possible as we keep you in the loop for the best Chicago and national sports talk around. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're not unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not to our extravaganza. We call it a Sports Talk Radio Show. You got to hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, most stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to Bill and be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE live entertainment game that's checking us out live in the living color right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels at 12:25 p.m. Central Standard Time. But as always, much love to the replay game that's checking us out on the replay, also at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Don't you ever forget our motto where we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will always provide.
We invite you to some of the best around Second City Sports. I know this is kind of a dead time of year in sports, kind of, sort of, but don't worry. We got a lot to talk about. We've got breakout stars for the NFL for 2026, including a Bear is on the list. We'll talk about that. It's down to the Final Four over at the World Cup. We'll preview that. Also, to Caleb Wilson dazzles at in his summer league debut with the Bulls and other rookies made splashes as well. Of course, we'll talk about That Yannick Sinner goes back to back at Wimbledon. We got a new ladies champion, and so much more, and even maybe a little old school TV Monday as we salute the city of brotherly love, since of course the All Star Game is in Philly this week. And hey, a little bit of a clue there for of what we're gonna do here for Old School TV Monday. But since it's officially the end of the first half of the MLB season, so we're gonna talk some MLB, and probably one of the most surprising teams is the White Sox. They're go to the All-Star break at 50-45. I don't think anybody had that going into the season. They took care of business against the A's, as we knew that they would, and also too Murakami, as well as Tristan Peters, who had a couple of big hits during that series, will be making trips to the All-Star game in Philly tomorrow. And Murakami will also be doing the home run derby that's coming up tonight. We'll preview that too as well. But Sid, I mean, look, they've had solid pitching, especially in this series. Davis Martin, unfortunately, will not be going, as we were all kind of lobbying for him to be a part of the All-Star festivities out there in Philadelphia. But even still, I think, like I said, I think the White Sox are probably one of the more surprising teams in baseball. They're tied with Cleveland in the AL Central standings. But sis, so what do you think about the White Sox as we review the first half, I should say?
Yeah, I would give this group a B plus, A minus, because of the expectations that we had coming into the year. I had this team at 73 wins. We expected improvement, but for them to be in first place in the AL Central, with the rest of the American League being down, it is what it is. But they took advantage of it. Still to date, their longest losing streak is 3 games. We talked about this on our last show. It did not look good catching the Boston team at the wrong time, being swept by them at home. But they rebounded nicely against the Oakland Athletics. They took advantage of their injury situation. They had stellar starting pitching. The hitting came through, as you mentioned, picking up 2 additional All-Stars in the process. And as we also talked about all year long, LaKeena, breakout stars and breakout players that go under the radar have really shown up for this team, like your Tristan Peters with his cycle last Friday, Sam Antonacci, mentioned by Davis Martin. And let's not forget about Brady Montgomery. He had a bad day, in my opinion, in the outfield last Saturday, but made up for it with his bat yesterday with 3 RBIs, including a 2-run home run early in the game. So we talked about the Murakamis, and we talk about the Andrew Benintennis too. Let's just say the big name guys on the team. But your other supporting castmates that do not get as much headlines as they should, they're contributing in a big way as well.
Yeah, you got, of course, Miguel Vargas, who is going to be going to the All-Star, who is going to be participating in the All-Star game tomorrow. You got Colson Montgomery, and Benintendi, although he's been quiet lately, he's actually been pretty solid. So I think, for me, look, I think Anthony Kay actually had a decent start. So Noah Schultz over the weekend. So look, I think the White Sox for me they're definitely up there as probably one of the more surprising teams in the AL. But as we get into the second half, I'm wondering, like, okay, can they sustain it? Because I feel like they kind of came out of nowhere. Now everybody's noticing him. But look, coming out the gate, their schedule isn't very. It's very tough. I mean, look, Toronto. I know Toronto. I know they had a couple. We'll talk about Toronto, who actually is connected to the White Sox after the break. Of course, you got Texas. They've been hot lately. Houston. The Yankees, Air should be back by then. Then they face Tampa, and they got to face Boston and Cleveland. So the second half, I should say, of the season for the White Sox, it doesn't. We'll see how they really are as we go to the trade deadline. I mean, I'm sure Jerry Weinstein doesn't want to give away too much. If anything, he probably wants to add newer pieces. We'll talk about after the break. We'll talk about who they drafted so far. One of them is a former popular White Sox player. This is a former of a popular White Sox player. But for me, it's just one of those days where it's just like, look, can they sustain it? I think that's really going to be the number one question for me as far as this White Sox team is concerned.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena hanging out here with you, talking White Sox baseball, reviewing their first half of the season. You kind of brought it up, but I'll expand on it here. Their starting pitcher. Remember, we thought that Shane Smith would be a repeat for the All-Star game. he struggled to start off the season. He had a bad spring training. He got sent down. He was injured recently. Now he's back on the bump. Maybe he can help this team out at some point in the second half of the year. But you talk about the guys about Davis Martin. I know he hasn't looked good in his last few starts, but he still has a 9-4 record on the year. Sean Burke, who was your home opener starter last year, he was sent down, but he came back and finished a nice into the 2025 season. He's had a good 2-month stretch here in the 2026 season. In his last start, 9 strikeouts, no walks against the Oakland Athletics. In his previous start at Cleveland almost 2 weeks ago, by the end of this week, he had 11 strikeouts and no walks. This guy is locked and loaded right now. And also, you mentioned about Anthony Kay. He's been pitching well. And Eric Fetty, who I had a chance to meet yesterday, he got the win on Saturday. So the White Sox, the rotation, even though they've gone through some bumps in the roads, especially through the month of June, they still able to hold up the fourth while the offense tries to catch up now. As we said before, we'll say at least 100 more times between now and the trade deadline in about 3 weeks on August 3rd. This White Sox team needs a veteran arm in their bullpen. They definitely could use a young veteran starter in that starter rotation.
Now we'll talk about who that might not be, as he's been telling folks like he wants to stay with his team. We'll talk about that. And of course, the Cubs. The Cubs got 1, 2 out of 3 in Cincy. They're the hottest team in baseball right now. So, and also too, we'll talk about the rest of the MLB and we'll also preview the All-Star festivities out in Philadelphia, including the Home Run Derby tonight, where if you got Netflix, you'll be seeing it there. So we'll have that and so much more coming next. LaKeena, McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports. On Sports in Chicago, more Diamond Talk coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGetty, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
course, on a Monday extravaganza edition of the program, you're locked and loaded, and we're live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me, LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, here's again, IG.
As we continue the Cubs, White Sox, and MLB talk for this half hour of the program, if you have any questions or comments regarding the subject of Chicago baseball or national baseball as well, you definitely hit us up in the comments right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Alex Bregman brought out some big hits. He got the lumber there the last couple of games and going into the All-Star break. Hit a couple of home runs, including a big one that helped seal the series win for the Cubs in Cincy against the Reds, winning 2 out of 3 there. The Cubs, you could probably say they are the hottest team in baseball. And, June 11th, which is about this time last month, they were, after losing their series to the Rockies, they were kind of hovering over 500. Since then, they have won 20 of their last 28, including they went 15-6, to end the first half as well. So now they're only 5 back of Milwaukee, and they're at the top of the Central. Then they're at the top of the wild card. They're at the top in the wild card race as well. So look, the pitching. We know the pitching. We know the story of the pitching. The pitching has, and we've been saying this for the last 3 months or so. They've been holding on by rubber bands and tape. So that was unfortunately that's been the thing with the pitching. But for the pitching that they have had, they've been really solid. But also to the best ever coming alive. We saw what DSP Swatson had a quiet series, but we have what he's been doing. That's what our sponsors in the last few weeks. PCA and all the records he broke in the last few weeks. Now Bregman, I know he's probably one guy that's not happy about the All-Star break coming up because he's starting to heat up, but it's been a little bit of everything, of course, you'll say as well. So, yeah, the Cubs are hanging on by a thread, but they've actually been playing pretty well.
Yeah, the starting pitchers you talked about, Shota Imanaga. I know the stat line didn't look great, but he kept the Cubs in that game last Friday despite Hunter Green's 12 strikeout to 1 walk performance for the Cincinnati Reds for the long series for the Reds in that series. The Cubs starting pitcher was tremendous. Javier Assad did his thing last Saturday, even though he gave up 7 hits in the 5 and 1/3 innings. He kept the ball low and battled through it to give his team a chance, and the Cubs offense came through. Yesterday, you had Matthew Boyd, who's been back from the IL for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and he did enough to get the job done. The offense backed them up as well. So you should mention about the offense and some of the guys are starting to come through. Like you said, their pitching is been held together. The starting pitching in particular has been held together by duct tape. But let's give Jacob Webb some credit here, as he's been filling in nicely for the injured Daniel Palencia as the closer of this Cubs team. Could the Cubs have a dilemma when Daniel Palencia returns? We shall see. But if Jacob Webb continues to get the job done, I don't know that Daniel Palencia will have a job, at least as closer, when he gets back.
Yeah, I think that's really going to be I think that's kind of really been the battle here. Like I said, Webb's given up some runs, but as I said, the last couple of starts have actually been pretty solid. He actually got the Cubs out of a couple of jams in that series against Cincy to sealing those wins. So, yeah, I think the Cubs are going to be an interesting team to watch during the trade deadline. They picked up some guys through, bringing a veterans minimum and such. So going to be interesting to see what they do once the second half starts. I mean, they do start off against Minnesota. We'll talk about Minnesota in a second here. They've been playing very well lately, so that won't be an easy series, and neither will Detroit either, because they've played Detroit right afterwards. We'll talk about one of their players in a second. Then they go to the division. They play Pittsburgh and St. Louis on the road. Then it gets really even tougher playing the Yankees and the Dodgers as well. We'll see where the Yankees are by that point. But, I think the Dodgers, will see where they are as well. But, yeah, I think it doesn't get easy for the Cubs starting off coming off the break. But I guess, like you said, Milwaukee, we'll talk about Milwaukee. I think they're starting to fall off a little bit. But I think the Cubs just need to just have to take care of business, try to win series when they can. And let's see what they do these next few weeks, what kind of moves that Jed Hoyer decides to make.
Yeah, hopefully they can get some healthy bodies back, especially within their pitching rotation. Both their bullpen and their starting rotation. Hopefully James Nathaniel will be back at some point following the All-Star break. Justice Steele, it looks like he may miss this year, but we'll see what happens with him. But like you say, just get healthy bodies back in the offense. Continue to improve. You mentioned about Alex Bregman quietly heating up here a little bit. Hopefully he could carry that momentum into the second half. Hopefully, Dansby Swanson can heat it up again. P. Crow Armstrong, what you're going to get from him. Michael Bush quietly had a good last couple of games in the Cincinnati series, so hopefully he can get it going. But until the rotation gets healthy, this offense is going to have to do just a little bit more to keep them afloat until some of these healthy bodies return.
Let's see. It'll be very interesting to see what the Cubs do here. As the second seed sports on Sports, which got LaKeena McGee, Steve Brown with you as we go to the rest of baseball here. We'll start. We'll say in the Central. We'll start with Milwaukee. They're starting to kind of fall off a little bit. They get swept by the Pirates, including losing 14-5. And Jacob Mizorowski, for as great as he's done earlier, but he is going to miss the All-Star game with arm fatigue. So that's something to look out for as well, because we're kind of getting to the point of his career because he's not used to pitching this many innings. So you got to think that's something to look out for if you're the Milwaukee. So there could be an opening for the Cubs here. I know they're only 5 back, so we'll see. But yeah, I think they're starting to kind of fall back to earth a little bit. I'm talking about Milwaukee.
Yeah, Mizorowski had to miss yesterday's start because of it. Robert Gasser took the loss for the Brewers. Pittsburgh jumped all over the Brewers early. Paul Skeens actually looked nice in his second straight start, having 7 strikeouts through 5 in the third innings. As Pittsburgh, they're trying to keep up in the NL wildcard race. So, like you said, Milwaukee's starting to crack a little bit. If you're a Brewers fan, hopefully Jacob Mizorowski can use this break to get himself healthy, because that young man throws almost 100 miles an hour each pitch, and like I said, you can't get arm fatigue quickly. My arm's starting to feel weak a little bit just mentioning it, but Mizorowski is one of the top 3 pitchers in all of baseball, and for the Milwaukee Brewers to do what they want to do, Mizorowski has been a big part of that success ever since he joined the team last year. He's going to be a big part of the success again should Milwaukee repeat as division champs.
Yeah, going to be very interesting to see if definitely something to look out for, especially when you're dealing with arm fatigue. I mean, that's not. It could be good. It could be not. It could be not too serious, but then it could be serious. So if you're Milwaukee, definitely looking at the former. So we'll see there. Now St. Louis, they won 2 out of 3 against the Braves. This is actually supposed to be a rebuilding year for them. Talk about the Cardinals. So again, I mean, we'll see if they can probably keep up. Same thing with Pittsburgh now going into to the West. Look, I know the Dodgers got swept by the Diamondbacks. I know folks are freaking out. Oh my God, they're only 11 back up on the Diamondbacks. Oh my God! But you kind of felt that the Dodgers were looking kind of sloppy, and they kind of looked a little. I don't want to say like they kind of like foamed it in this series, but they kind of did it, for being honest. They kind of, I think they wanted that break. I know Ohtani hit another home run, for his 22nd of the season, early on in that game yesterday, but. I wouldn't freak out if you're the Dodgers. If you're the Dodgers, I'd be like, I think this is usually what happens in the All-Star break. You want to kind of, refresh and stuff. So yeah, you kind of think they're tired a little bit. So I'm not freaking out if you're a Dodgers fan. You shouldn't.
Yeah, speaking of Shohei Ohtani, he will not participate in the All-Star game. I know he was supposed to pitch and hit. That's not going to happen. I know he's injured in terms of being a pitcher right now. He's just allowed to hit. So he needs a break as well. But they have a couple of young guys that stepped up to the plate, starting rotation. Yoshinobu Yamamoto has had a nice year despite Roki Sasaki's struggles. Don't forget about Joseph Robolewski. He's been having a nice year as a young pitcher in a starting rotation as well. But I'm with you, LaKeena. The Diamondbacks did jump on the Dodgers early in all 3 games of that series. Surprisingly, the Diamondbacks has had success in Dodger Stadium over the last few years, including the 2023 playoffs. Most people forget, and that was the year that the Diamondbacks went to the World Series and lost to the Texas Rangers, but they beat the Dodgers in the division series in that first round playoff series 3 years ago. So the Diamondbacks have had success in Dodger Stadium over the last few years, and like you said, again, I took it as the Dodgers are really looking forward to this break, but when they play again, it's definitely going to be a different story.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I wouldn't freak out too much if you're the Dodgers. I know Zach Gallen is on the IL for the Diamondbacks, so that could be something to look out for. They are trying to get into that one of those wild card spots. Now San Diego, they took 2 out of 3 against Toronto to open up the break. So we'll see if they can actually maybe figure some things out here. Now going to the AL East, this is when it gets kind of tight. Atlanta, like I said, we talked about it earlier. They lose 2 out of 3 to St. Louis. Still no word on if Acuna Jr. will be back. We'll have to wait and see. They did come back behind Ozzie Albies as a game-winning RBI double to help. And actually, also Mason Wynn's throwing error that led the way for that one to come in, and the Braves were able to rally. But you got to Acuna. Hopefully, Acuna will be back, because if not, I think we'll talk about the Phillies in a second. But yeah, they're breathing down their necks, and they've actually had their struggles lately.
Yeah, but I said it a few times, and I'll say it again. The longer that Ronald Acuna Jr. is out, the Braves will struggle. Yes, Austin Riley's had a good year. Matthew Olson's had a good year. Drake Baldwin, you're defending NL Rookie of the Year at catcher. He's had a good year. Michael Harris has been coming up in the clutch out there in the outfield with his bat. So the Braves have been keeping up afloat offensively, but the longer Acuna Jr. is out, is going to get tight in the collar for the Atlanta Braves. You mentioned what the Philadelphia Phillies, we get to what they did in Motown here coming up, but the longer that Acuna Jr. is out, you give that Philadelphia Phillies team that much more confidence to overtake you in the NL East. I still say it's going to be a tight 2-team race when it's all said and done. But for Atlanta, yeah, they had to get Ronald Acuna Jr. back. They've been giving some good surprises results from their starting pitching rotation this year. Chris Sale, Bryce Elder, and those guys. But the Acuna Jr., hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. And obviously the Braves are a better team with him in that lineup, and definitely in the outfield as well.
Yeah, they definitely are going to need. Yeah, they definitely. And Chris Sale, like I said, Chris Sale's been really solid for them this year. So yeah, but I think they may need to get some extra pitching. Going into the trade deadline, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's definitely they definitely need Acuna Jr. back desperately. Now, speaking of Philadelphia, they won 2 out of 3 against Detroit after losing the opener 10-2 on Friday. No worries though, they came back and outscored the Tigers 9-2. Including Zach Wheeler. Like I said, he was a little bit miffed that he didn't get picked for the All-Star. He actually was asked to come in, but he told him no, pound sands. So yeah, so he gets a little bit of a break. Also, Christopher Sanchez, he got the National League starting spot for the pitching for get an All-Star. I will tell you the AL starter in a second, but yeah, of course, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, who will be participating in the home run derby coming up later tonight. JT Realmuto's go-ahead 3-run double helped that one in that series. So, but yeah, Philadelphia's looking really good. I think they need to bump up the middle relief a little bit. That's kind of been like the one weakness for Philadelphia this year. But yeah, I think they're only 2 games back of Atlanta, and look, you never know. I think they're going to be facing each other. I think later this month, I believe. So. It could get interesting. It's getting very tight in the NL East.
Yeah, on one team they had a managerial change early in the season and worked, and that was the Philadelphia Phillies. Don Manley has come in there, basically lay down the law, lay down his expectations, and the players have responded. You talk about Christopher Sanchez, who will get the start for the NL in his home, quote unquote, hometown tomorrow. Jesus Luzardo's had a good year. Zach Wheeler has come back strong, even though he's not an all-star, unfortunately. But everything's clicking well for the Philadelphia Phillies right now. It's just that, not to look ahead too much, but their problem has been not getting it done in the postseason. Will that change this year? We shall see. That's further down the road. But they're playing some very good baseball right now. They're getting some great starting pitching. We all know that the offense is going to be there. But like you said, can they tighten up that middle relief before you get to Johan Duran as a closer in the 9th?
Yeah, that's gonna be like the main thing here. That's why they definitely need to get some middle relief pitching. I'm sure that's going to be their focus in the trade deadline. Now Miami, again, they've been one of the surprise teams right up there with the White Sox. They got swept by the Guardians, and I'm wondering, are they starting to kind of fall back to earth a little bit? Because, like I said, I mean, no one had them, being this good this year. I think we went through this last year with them, and they kind of fell off right around this time, and then the wheels kind of fell off after that. So, I hope that's not the case this year. But I think that series with the Guardians, I think they're starting to see kind of a little bit of a warning signs.
Yeah, the Marlins offense only scored a total of 5 runs in this series. They left a lot of men on base, including yesterday's game, leaving 8 men on base. That's not going to get it done. On the flip side for the Guardians, Chase DeLauder, their rookie right fielder, who's up there with the Munataka Murakami of the White Sox as far as the AL Rookie of the Year candidates are concerned. He had a couple of home runs in this series. As we talked about with the Guardians before, they are headed by their great starting pitcher, which showed up in the series, but it was the bats for the Guardians that really made the headlines in this 3-game weekend sweep. So everybody thought, well, after the White Sox won the last 2 games of that series, oh, there goes Cleveland. Now they're going to fade and go away. No, they're not, folks. They're showing up strong, and they're backing up their good start pitcher with timely hitting, and you saw that this weekend down there in South Beach.
You listen to CIncy Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, stay around with you. Let's continue on the AL Central, if you will. Minnesota, they won 2 out of 3 against the Angels, and look, I think Minnesota is going to be an interesting team to watch in the trade deadline. Look, could they perhaps maybe be legit contenders, or could they perhaps maybe the wheels roll off in these next few weeks? I know the ownership. We know the ownership. Situation is in flux with them, but I mean, look, I think they still got good players. Of course, they got Royce Lewis. I know Brian Buxton won't be back until after the break, but he's been really solid for them too, as usual. Gavin Williams had a nice outing last week. So against the Twins. So yeah, I think the Twins are going to be an interesting team to watch. I don't know if they're going to do anything big. They probably won't, but they could definitely hang in there in that Central, because no one's going to run away from that division. It's just that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I know they have Jordan Ryan, who's their long representative. He's a possible trade candidate on the August 3rd trade deadline. We'll see what happens there. Taj Bradley, who we forgot about the last few years, LaKeena, former Tampa Bay Ray standout pitcher. He pitched well yesterday, 7 strong innings, only giving up 6 hits, striking out 6, walking 2, and giving up 2 earned runs. Yes, they played the Anaheim Angels, but when you're a team that's trying to get back in the race, you take care of the teams that you're supposed to take care of when you schedule, and the Twins did that this weekend. Am I still a believer in them? No. Let's see how they finish up the rest of the month of June before we can even think about considering them contenders.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens with them. Detroit, look, I know, like we talked about it, they lost 2 out of 3 to Philadelphia. I know Tariq Skubal has told friends he doesn't want to leave. Remember, folks, he's got that no trade clause. So for people that want to, I know White Sox fans want him to come in. I know Cubs fans want him to come in too. I mean, they're only 6.5 back. I'm talking about Detroit in the Central, and they're right there within the thick of it in the wild card slot. So I don't see them perhaps maybe even making any, where they may make some subtle moves, but yeah, I don't think Tariq Skubal is going anywhere.
Yeah, we'll see between now and the trade deadline. I know they made that miracle run toward to get into the playoffs a couple of years ago. At this time last year, they were dominating the AL Central before Cleveland came and took it away from them. This year, you don't know which team is going to show up for which game. They do have the offense which can be streaky at times. You have on their starting rotation outside of Skubal, you have Casey Mize, so I believe he's a free agent at the end of the year. He could be a possible trade candidate. And they picked up Framber for Valdez from the Houston Nationals in the offseason. So they have a good top 3 starting rotation, but it's been kind of shaky as well throughout the season. And let's not forget their bullpen, which I was praising them for last year. This year has been terrible. So can they overcome that in the lack of production in the back half of the starting rotation? I don't know.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing here for Detroit. Now, going into the AL East, congrats to Dylan Cease. He's been named a starter on the All-Star game for the AL. So I'm sure we saw the video and and such, the nice way that they announced that, so that the Toronto did. So that was really that was kind of cool how they did that. Now, as far as they did gain a game, they took care of business against the Nets. It looks like Aaron Judge should be back after the break, so they're definitely going to need him. So they kind of go into it a little bit hot here, take care of business, I guess, against the Nats. The Rays, they took 2 out of 3 against Seattle. They're still 3 games up. So that AL East is going to be very interesting, as we figured it would be.
Yeah, I know Boston's been on a hot streak lately. I know they swept away the terrible New York Mets. Do I take them seriously? I don't know. I have a question mark on them. We know Baltimore is terrible, even though they took care of Kansas City over the weekend. Going with the Yankees and the Rays. The Rays, as we talked about before on this show, they play fundamentally sound baseball. Give manager Kevin Cash credit for that. They don't have any big name stars. I know Junior Caminero is having a big year. I know some of their the names that we talk about that they need to step up in their starting rotation has stepped up this year. So and they play well defensively. And they have a good back of the end bullpen. Craig Campbell has revived his career with the Tampa Bay Rays being their primary closer as of now. So Tampa Bay has a clicking on all cylinders right now. They're taking advantage of the Yankees injury bug situation. So I believe we talked about the NL East just a few moments ago being a 2-team race. This AL East race is going to be a 2-team race as well. It's going to probably come down to the last couple weeks of the season. Assume that Judge comes back for the Yankees.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing. The Judge has to come back in order for them to sustain it. Now, Boston, I know, look, they've won nine in a row. They've won, I believe, like 11 of the last 13. Look, they're starting to kind of get it going with the bats and stuff, but they're right there to think of it the AL wild card, but I just think this is kind of like too little too late for me anyway.
The AL wild card is going to be jammed up, in my opinion, as we start the second half of the season later this week. Unfortunately, you can count the A's out. I know the Houston Astros that they've been hanging around, but I don't know if I'm a believer in them. Your Seattle Mariners, if they don't get it together, I don't believe they may have a chance even to be in the AL wild card race. So it's going to be a log jam, but who's going to separate themselves? Who's going to have a strong start to the second half when they resume later this week? But like you said, like I said, it's going to be a log jam in the AL wildcard race, and whoever gets hot the most I think is going to take. I know there's 3 spots up, but the question is who's going to separate themselves from the rest of the pack.
Speaking of the AL West, I mean, I know that Seattle, they like I said, they lose 2 out of 3. To Tampa, and I know Emerson Hancock got hurt too, so he's got a bruised finger, so he might not be back till next week. Texas, they won 2 out of 3 against Houston, but again, like I said, I don't know who's gonna win that division. So I think a lot can happen between now and the All-Star. The trade deadline, I should say. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with that. But that AL West is really like I said, the log jam. But yeah. Those 3 teams, like I said, Texas, Seattle, and Houston, those 3 teams, are really going to be the key. And we'll see what happens in the AL West.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. You could eliminate the Athletics. You can eliminate the Anaheim Angels. Like I said, it's going to come down to those 3 teams, in my opinion. Houston, I think they've been on a hot streak here lately. Like you said, they ran into a good buzzsaw in Texas on the road in that Texas series down there at Globe Life Park. I still not a believer in them. They've been battling through injuries too. But the question is for the Mariners, when are they going to get it going offensively? They have the talent to get it done as far as with the bats. You can only lean on your starting pitch and your bullpen for so long, but you always got to have to help out on a consistent basis. Right now, we haven't seen it so far in this first half of the season.
We'll have to wait and see what happens here. Going into the All-Star festivities, real quick. Of course, the Home Run Derby is tonight, so that's gonna be kind of like the thing where we'll see. It's going to be, of course, over at Citizens Bank Park, and some of your participants, of course, Kyle Schwarber, of course, that's his home field, if you will. So you got to think that he'll probably have the slight edge there. Junior Caminero, also Ben Rice, from the Yankees, Wilson Contreras, although there was some talk that maybe he may not play. It looks like he is going to participate in the All-Star Home Run Derby. Of course, from Boston, Jack Caligoni. From Kansas City, Jordan Walker from the Cardinals, and also Bryce Harper, also from the Phillies. And, of course, Taka Murakami, of course, from the Sox. He was a late addition. So, and remember, folks, the All-Star Home Run Derby is, of course, now on Netflix. So I think that's another thing that I think that, folks, that's going to be interesting to see how the numbers will be, as streaming numbers will be, since it is on Netflix this year.
And they're going to have a 1-hour pregame show starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central on Netflix. And, of course, the Home Run Derby will take place at 8 Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. As far as the field is concerned, you mentioned about Kyle Schwarber. I think not too many people are talking about Bryce Harper. He could be a dark horse favorite as well, because both those guys are left-handed hitters. They know the dimensions of Citizens Bank ballpark, as we said for years. That's a crackerjack box to hit home runs in. So I think those two guys would do well. Munetaka Murakami, another left-hander from the Chicago White Sox. I know he barely drove in 2 RBI in that series against the Athletics over the weekend, but I think for him, he could use this derby to get his timing back, to get his swing back. So I think he's going to put on a show. Do I think he's going to win the whole thing? I don't think so, but I think he's going to hit some monster home runs out of the ballpark. So I think he's going to make a good showing in his home run debut. Junior Caminero, he may be a little bit under the tooth as far as the power, but he may surprise some folks as well. So I think your two favorites are Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper. Like I said, Murakami, I think he's going to do well, but I don't know if he's going to advance to the next round. You got your nice balance of left-handed hitters and a few right-handed hitters as well. That's what you like to see in this contest. And don't forget about Ben Rice. He has sneaky good power. He could surprise some people as well from the New York Yankees.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like who my sleeper pick is. Like I said, I think it's gonna be one of the. It could be somebody that comes out of nowhere, but like I said, I think Murakami is gonna do a little bit better, especially since he's been out for like over a month. So that's gonna be interesting to see. But like I said, I want to see what the streaming numbers are gonna be, since it is gonna be on Netflix this year, and also, of course, the All-Star game will be tomorrow in Philadelphia at 7 o'clock on the Big Fox Network. So I know there's going to be a lot of festivities and such. So, you guys can check that out, too.
Who's your pick for Home Run Derby tonight?
I said my pick. Like I said, I said it's going to be Schwarber. Like I said, it's going to be one of the Philly guys. Now, like I said, could Ben Rice. I think like I said, Ben Rice is my sleeper pick. So we'll have to wait and see.
I will go out of the box. We'll go with Jordan Walker of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh yeah. He's hit some big home runs too. He hit some against the Cubs during their last series. But yeah, so that's gonna be interesting to see. But yeah. Well, I know he's got some good, sticky good power too. So yeah, but like I said, it'll be, like I said, I want to know what the numbers are going to be. That's what I'm looking at. Not really just who wins it, but what the stream numbers are going to be for how Netflix produces this.
Hour number 1 is finished. Hour number 2 starts up following these messages right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Caleb Wilson makes a strong debut in the Bulls uniform in Las Vegas in the Summer League. We'll get into who the White Sox drafted over the weekend in the MLB draft. We have some NFL nuggets to give to you guys. A World Cup soccer update as we down to the Final Four. LaKeena will give us her tennis wrap up, and we'll salute the city of Philadelphia in our special edition of Old School TV Monday. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You're listening to the Monday Extravaganza edition of Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're
They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Everybody in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on a Monday extravaganza edition of the program. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me. LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, once again, the IG.
As we kick off hour number 2, discussing the Chicago Bulls, the NBA Summer League, and the NFL. If you have any questions or comments regarding those subjects, you can definitely hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Caleb Wilson impressed in the Summer League on Friday. Memphis just edged out the Bulls 97-96, but Caleb Wilson looked really good for the Bulls, scoring 35, including 7-11 from three-point range. Cam Boozer on the other side from Memphis, he had 23 points for the Grizzlies. Look, I mean, you can look at this. All this is sort of like, hey, it's summer league and such. You're not facing like the top tier guys. You're facing fellow rookies and guys that are coming in on two-way deals and G League guys and such. But even still, I mean, look, it's a good way to get like basketball experiences and stuff like that. So yeah, I find it funny how everybody say, oh, he's the next Jordan or blah blah blah. I'm talking about Caleb Wilson. Let the guy just get into the rhythm. A lot of these guys are just getting into the rhythm of playing an NBA type atmosphere and an NBA type schedule. So I think folks need to just chill on all that. But yeah, like Caleb Wilson did look really good on Friday.
Yeah, as we said on the show last week, it's all about getting those rookies and those young guys development, giving them a head start of what's going to be like, what life is going to be like in the NBA. As you mentioned, Caleb Wilson did show some signs that he wants to be that guy. Of course, we talked about it before when he got drafted. He thought that he should be one of those top three players that were selected in this year's draft. Obviously, it didn't work work out their way. But you like the motivation of this young man that, excuse me, that he comes in. He wants to set the culture. He's the new face of the Chicago Bulls. He wants to set the tone. He wants to set that template that you got to work your ass off if you want to make it in this league. And he's motivated by a lot of things, and he's not just putting those words out in the open just to hear himself talk. He's putting that work in the gym, and it's starting to show. Now, am I going to sit here and put him in the Hall of Fame? No, but it was a very good performance from Mr. Wilson last Friday. His jump shot was on point. The step back was tremendous. He could drive the ball to the basket. And as I said before, LaKeena, I didn't see it too much in this game. Hopefully, we'll get to see it as the summer league goes on. I like to see him in situations with his one-on-one defense. We saw hints of that in college at North Carolina, but I want to see how he's going to improve with his one-on-one defense. As we talked about before, that Tiago Splitter, the new Bulls head coach, he's going to emphasize defense as well. And Caleb Wilson is going to be one of those spaces that's going to lead that charge to help what Tiago's going to do.
He did hit a couple of nice 3-pointers. Talk about Wilson, and I think a couple more were pretty competitive. So I think this is definitely going to be interesting to see him and his improvement, and seeing how how this kind of like the type of style that Coach Splitter wants to play out. So I think it's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens there with that and that front. I know Dalen Swing only had 7 points, but he did have a couple of nice assists. He actually had an assist to Wilson for one of those threes, so that that was a pretty good nice play there for that one. But like I said, I think the Bulls, I think you're just enjoying the what you're seeing here now. Look, a lot of these guys outside of Wilson and Swain, a lot of these guys are not going to be on the team. So I think it's going to be just this, to see kind of like how Splitter looks at these guys and kind of like see what best fits for his roster and such for the main roster when training camp starts.
And also, too, another guy that's going to expected to have a big summer league showing is Noah Isagay, the rookie for Friends that was drafted last year under the old regime. He played 29 minutes, scored 10 points, grabbed 5 rebounds, had 1 turnover, and it was over, and 1 assist. It was over 2 from 3-point range. He only played I believe only 6 games last year, so that was definitely not enough sample size to tell if he could play in this league or not. I know he spent a lot of time in the G League last year. He was injured too partially throughout last season. So Noah Isagay, if he wants to be part of this roster, he's going to have a strong showing. So I read you the stats of what he did on Friday. He's going to have to keep improving and keep showing this new coaching staff that he wants to be on this roster for the upcoming season.
Now going to the rest of the summer league, Keen Wagler had a nice showing. He had 23 as the Clippers beat Utah last night. Darren Peterson also had 23 points in a losing effort for the Jazz. So I think so far the summer league is kind of going as we thought it would. I mean, the games have actually been pretty exciting for the most part. I know AJ Dabonska has had a couple of good showings here as well at summer league so far for the Grizzlies. So yeah, I'm kind of like looking forward to see how some of these college players, like you said, like we've been saying, I mean, they're kind of getting to the rhythm of the NBA. I know Bruce Thornton had 27 with Houston as they beat Denver, and summer league play also on Friday. So yeah, it's sort of like, and Hunter Dickinson, to his credit, he actually is playing summer league. For New Orleans, he had 21 in their game on Saturday. So yeah, I think you're kind of seeing a mix of guys that are kind of like get into the rhythm and get into the feel of the NBA, but also seeing guys like Dickinson who has had injuries but want to kind of get back into the rhythm. So it's sort of a mixed bag when it comes to these summer league games.
It also too shows with these games out there in Vegas, it gives us the opportunity to look at these rookies, and it gives them a platform to show the skills that they're made of, and one of the main reasons why they were drafted. Also, too, it gives these coaches to go back and show them the film of what they could do, what they can work on for the rest of the summer. So when they come back in training camp in late in September, they could correct some mistakes that they did in summer league. Summer league is it's like summer school for the rookies. You're allowed to make your mistakes. You get to improve on your weaknesses. You're working on your game. You're just paying attention to detail. You already know about your strengths. Just work on your weaknesses, and like you said, just get a head start on what the NBA life is going to be like, at least on the court anyway.
So the Bulls got a couple of games this week, including one tonight against the aforementioned Darren Peterson and Utah. That game will be at 8 o'clock on ESPN out in Vegas. And they also have another one on Thursday against the Lakers. That game will be early at 5. That'll be on Prime Video. So, like I said, you can watch all these the summer league games either on ESPN or on Prime Video or on the ESPN network. So just check the scheduling of your local listings for times and such. So you may see some future NBA stars in the summer league.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago on the Monday Extravaganza edition. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. LaKeena, I know we're less than 2 weeks away from some teams reporting for training camp. The Chicago Bears on July 25th with the rookies, and of course July 28th with the Bears. The rest of the team are supposed to report to Hallis Hall. But I was reading the story over the weekend, courtesy of The Athletic, and we won't go through all 32 teams. We'll just pick out some of the teams that we think they're going to contend this year as far as the playoffs are concerned. They had this article called "One Breakout Player to Watch from Every NFL Team for 2026." We do have a Chicago Bear on this list. We'll get to that player in just a moment. But I want to start out with you and go to the Jacksonville Jaguars and Travis Hunter. Of course, yeah, he was a great two-way star in college at the University of Colorado under Coach Prime Deion Sanders. Of course, his rookie year was cut short last year. I know that Travis Hunter said he wanted to play both ways. Well, head coach Liam Cohen going to his second year let him do that on a full-time basis. I don't know, but if Travis Hunter stays healthy this year, he definitely could be an impact for the Jacksonville Jaguars team, who won the AFC South Division last year before bowing out in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that like you said, I think will he be playing a little bit of wide receiver? I can't see Coach Cohen doing that. I think he's definitely going to stick to being just a corner, and such. So I think that's really going to be the vulnerabilities because, like you said, the Jags showed a lot of they gave a lot of big plays last year on the secondary. So they really, especially his absence definitely showed in that playoff loss to Buffalo. So he's definitely going to be the kind of guy that they definitely going to focus on him. You may see him in Spurs on offense, maybe more as a punt returner or maybe even a receiver. But again, I think that they're going to want to stick to him as a corner. So, but yeah, they're definitely going to need him to kind of break out and then such. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. That's really going to be the key here.
Another rookie that struggled to stay healthy last year was a wide receiver, Matthew Golden of the Green Bay Packers, out of the University of Notre Dame. He was 85th among wide receivers last year with 44 targets, tied for 84th with 29 catches, and 78th with 361 receiving yards, according to True Media. He didn't score his first career touchdown until the playoffs last year, but with Christian Watson's injury history and with other guys going down around him, Matthew Golden, if he stays healthy, many Packers observers and their fans expect a huge jump in year number 2.
Yeah, especially now. Yeah, especially now with Romeo Doubs and Dotavian Wicks, they're both gone. So you got to think Golden will definitely have his opportunities with Christian Watson and Jaden Reed. So he'll definitely get his opportunities. But like you said, I mean, staying healthy, again, this is going to be a theme here. Some of these guys staying healthy is going to be the key. So he's definitely due for a big season. But like I said, a guy to stay healthy.
Let's go over to the AFC West. The Kansas City Chiefs, Xavier Worthy, of course, he's been injured, throughout his career, and he was limited last year as well. We all know, at least as of now, Patrick Mahomes is going to miss at least the first part of the season. We saw him in the playoffs a couple of years ago. Of course, he comes out of the University of Texas. We both talked about when he was in college. He's an explosive player. Not only he could catch the ball on the run, but he has explosive speed. But due to various injuries and whatnot, he's been very limited in a short time with the Kansas City Chiefs. We've seen him have his moments, but he's failed to put it together for a full year due to injuries. And whoever's that quarterback, whether it's Justin Fields or somebody else to start the year, Xavier Worthy is expected to be that breakout star for Kansas City.
Yeah, we've seen how good how good he can be, but like you said, I think the injuries may slow him down a little bit, and I think guys are starting. I think defense is trying to figure out how to slow him down. So I think that's really going to be kind of like the key here, and we'll see how he does. Whether either Fields or whoever else they bring on in relief of Mahomes going into these. I'm sure he's going to miss. I'm talking about Mahomes going to miss the first couple of weeks of the season, so. I think Worthy could have a good shining year, but like I said, I think he has to stay healthy, and I think defense is starting to figure him out. I think.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll see what happens with him. As we always say, when you get that tape on you, defenses are designed to stop you. Can you make the adjustments to combat that? And we'll see what happens with Mr. Worthy for this year. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena here with you as we continue to dive into the NFL as we talk about the article from the Athletic over the weekend. All 32 of their writers, they picked one star from each team that they're expected to have a breakout year. We won't go through all of them. We'll just go through the key ones here. We'll get to the Bears. Potential breakout star coming up in just a couple of minutes. But let's go over to the NFC East. Isaiah Likely, the former Baltimore Raven tight end. He signed a 3-year, $40 million contract with the New York Football Giants this offseason. Of course, John Harbaugh, the new head coach from the Baltimore Ravens, signed a 5-year, $100 million deal to take over the reins there in East Rutherford, New Jersey. You have Jackson Dart, the second-year quarterback out of the University of Mississippi. He showed some signs last year when he took over the starting reign at quarterback. He has a nice talent around him. Malik Neighbors is supposed to come back this year. Excuse me. They quietly build up that defense. Will it be respectable enough to be competitive for the playoffs? I don't know, but let's focus in on Isaiah Likely. Jackson Dart is going to have a nice, reliable target as we start year one on the new John Harbaugh regime.
Yeah, and I think that's really going to be the thing here. Of course, I don't want to say Likely was kind of in Mark Andrews' shadow, but he kind of was. He only had 477 receiving yards last year in his four seasons. So I think a lot is going to be expecting him. He got that big contract. So I think a lot of Giants fans, especially, are going to be expecting him to play in that contract. So, of course, you still got Malik Neighbors. He's coming back from injury, but you got to think that Likely will definitely be the top tight end target. He'll definitely probably be like number 2 and number 3 receiving target. So you just gotta play. You just gotta play to that contract.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. Like you said, there's a lot of a lot of expectations on him and new head coach Jim Harbaugh as he tries to get Giants back to respectability and eventually back to the playoffs over there in New York City. Let's go to the West Coast and talk about the defending champion Seattle Seahawks. Rashid Shaheed, the wide receiver who played with the New Orleans Saints last year. He was their all gadget go guy. He played a little bit of running back, but he was their gadget guy at wide receiver. Also, he was their kick returner as well. Seattle used him in the kick return spot last year. You saw him in that kickoff return last year in that divisional playoff game against the San Francisco 49ers. He has some big plays also during that playoff run last year. Rashid Shaheed should be a breakout star for the Seattle Seahawks, according to the pundits here at The Athletic, heading to 2026.
Yeah, and remember that was kind of started. That was kind of all they wrote. Even though it was that was opening play of the game, but yeah, that was kind of all she wrote for San Francisco. Seattle took control after that. Now, of course, with Kenneth Walker III now over Kansas City, I think especially on the running back side, he'll probably be. He will probably be part of the running back as well, and also too, of course, you've got like that that really good. Like a wide receiving core, of course, led by Jackson Smith and Jigma. So I think Shaheed, also Cooper Kupp as well. So I think he's definitely could be one of those guys that probably could have both a good breakouts in both the running and the receiving side.
Yeah, and that's a good weapon to have with Sam Darnold going into 2026. And Seattle, even though they didn't have a good offensive showing in that Super Bowl, they had some nice moments on the field last year as they were putting on points, especially toward the end of the regular season. Of course, they carried on into the playoffs. So before we get to the Bears, I want to we talked about this wide receiver. Now he's heading into year 2 in that Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform. The second-year guy of Ohio State, this Emeka Ibuka, for Tampa Bay. Last year, LaKeena, in the first half of the year, he was catching tough balls in the middle of the field, down the sidelines. He had over 1,278 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns overall, but his production fell off in the second half of the year. It was one of the reasons why the Tampa Bay missed out on the playoffs, losing the division to the Carolina Panthers. But Emeka Ibuka, the now second-year wide receiver for Tampa Bay, if he stays healthy, he can have bigger numbers for the Bucs in 2026.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be probably that breakout guy. I'm looking for him to have that breakout. Of course, he has issues with his hamstring, of course, and during the middle of that, that's kind of when the Bucs started, spiraling. And also, I think, just getting used to the playbook, and also to he didn't probably have too many plays when he was at Ohio State, so I think that kind of played a little bit of a factor as well, the expanded playbook and such. So, of course, Mike Evans is over in San Francisco now, and he's definitely going to be the guy, going to be one of the guys to come in. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, especially with new offensive coordinator Zach Robinson. He already said he's going to make Ibuka kind of like the number one guy. So especially with Evans being gone, he's definitely a lot of emphasis going to be on him for Baker Mayfield, especially since he wants a big contract. So I'm definitely thinking that you're going to be seeing a lot of the Mayfield Ibuka combo coming up this season for Tampa.
Yeah, like you said, Ibuka is going to get a lot of targets now, becoming that new number one wide receiver for Tampa Bay's offense. Now, let's get to Chicago's breakout start. And according to The Athletic, is second-year wide receiver Luther Burden out of the University of Missouri last year. He came on at the second half of the year, and he had a couple of nice plays during the playoff run with the Chicago Bears. He had 40 catches for 547 yards in the touchdown. He was used a little bit in the kickoff return last year. During the first half of the year, he was a gadget guy in that Ben Johnson offense. As like I said, he had his moments, especially during the second half of the year. Now with DJ Moore gone via trade to the Buffalo Bills, Roman Duze, he's expected to stay healthy this year. If he does, Rome, I think, is going to have a good year. But Luther Burden, quote unquote number 2 wide receiver, the second-year man at the University of Missouri, he's expected to step in and step up and to have a bigger production, a bigger role in year number 2 in Ben Johnson's offense.
Yeah, I think with DJ Moore being gone, I think he's definitely going to see a lot more looks. And even Ben Johnson during their other mini camps were saying that he would buy Burton's stock right now. I mean, we'll see. I mean, he had 547 yards and a TD. That's including the playoffs over those last 10 games. So, I'm sure they've been working together during the offseason, him and Caleb Williams. And, just about everybody has praised his work. That's never been a problem for him. Wasn't that way when he was in Missouri? So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see, especially, like I said, with Moore being gone to, been traded to Buffalo. I think that's really going to be like the key here. And I think this is going to be interesting. He's going to get a lot of targets and such. So, but you're also getting a lot of attention from some guys. So, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Duze will be the number one guy, but you got to think he'll definitely be, talk about Burden Jr. will be definitely be move to third, I should say, would be a close second, I think.
Yeah. We also talked about Caleb's trust or lack of trust with DJ Moore last year. Of course, DJ Moore, as we all know, came up big in the second half of last year, especially in those 2 wins against the Packers last year in the regular season and, of course, in the playoffs. But trust is going to be key between those young receivers and Caleb Williams and the guys that were there last year, as you mentioned. They've been working out with him throughout this all season, and they can expand that trust just a little bit more and just catch the damn ball, because the Bears, as we talked about before, they led the league in drops last year. Caleb Williams' statistics would have been just a little bit better, but if this wide receiver core can stay healthy but stay consistent in holding on to the football, everybody can eat off of it. Caleb, Luther, Rome, and everybody, and of course the 2 tight ends with Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland, all those guys can have bigger years.
Yeah, so like I said, we'll talk more about that coming up down the podcast. We're just a couple of weeks away from training camp, but check out the article on The Athletic, and of course, like I said, all the writers from the teams that they've covered. You can check out all the names of the guys that we mentioned, also other names that we did not mention. So you guys can check that out on theathletic.com. Now, take a really quick break, of course. We got our Final Four in the World Cup. Also, Wimbledon, we got a repeat champion on the men's side as Jannik Sinner goes back to back, and also a new women's champion. The Open Championship will begin over at Royal Birkdale, and so much more in the little sports media news as well. And we go a little brotherly love for Old School TV Monday. LaKeena, McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. Hey, hey, hey! Our Sports Pro Reset coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. On Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel, you can find us at Sports Zone Chicago. And on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Oops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Monday extravaganza edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. See the kid is me, LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment. This is our last break of the show for today. If you have any last minute questions or comments regarding any of the topics we discussed thus far on today's show, and also have a thought on the White Sox home run, alumni home run derby contest that took place last Saturday following the game, I'll get to my commentary of that as well in this half hour. So any of the topics we could discuss thus far on today's show, if you have a question or an opinion about it, get in the comment section right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the open screen for you.
We're down to the final four in the World Cup as the quarterfinals wrapped up this over the weekend, and it'll actually be the first time ever World Cup history, if you know your soccer history, that the top four teams left are the top four teams in the FIFA World Cup ranking. Go figure. The first semifinal will be tomorrow. On Tuesday, it'll be France and Spain. That should be a fun one. Two old European rivals. That'll be down at AT&T Stadium. Of course, yes, Jerry's World. Also, the second semifinal, which will be on Wednesday. It'll be England against Argentina. Jude Bellingham for England against Lionel Messi in Argentina, Mbappe, of course, and Yamal for Spain. So that, of course, the second semifinal between England and Argentina will be in Atlanta. So we'll see. I know Argentina, they had a little magical there. The Atlanta coming back against Egypt. We'll see what happens down there. But it should be an interesting quarterfinal. I know some people, here in the U.S. or whatever, but I know some of the ratings for the World Cup. We'll get to that, but yeah, the World Cup ratings, I know it's been interesting because I know some people have preferred watching the Telemundo coverage, which is all in Spanish, against watching the Fox broadcasts and such. But look, I just put it on mute. If I don't want to hear anybody commenting, I just put it on mute. That's it. I like I said, yeah. I mean, I actually want to know who scores the goals and such. So. Yeah, but it is what it is. But yeah, these two are some very interesting semifinal matches.
Yeah, I know that France, I believe, is they were the prohibitive favorites coming into this tournament. But like you said, you look at Spain; they got by Belgium last Friday, 2-1 in Los Angeles in that matchup. Also, you mentioned you have England and Argentina. I think maybe call me crazy, LaKeena. Like I said, I'm not a soccer expert, but some of the clips I've seen thus far in this tournament, I think Argentina can surprise some people. But I think whoever wins, in my opinion, whoever wins this Spain-France matchup is going to win the whole thing.
That's always been the kind of synopsis this entire World Cup. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think if either one of these, you could probably put all four of these teams. You could probably make a case for all of them. Of course, the Argentina being the defending champs, but like I said, you put all four of these teams, you can make a case for all four of them. I think, if you're England, you want to get a big start against Argentina and not have Messi come in and such. I think if you're Spain, you want to jump on France early, and vice versa if you're France. So. It's going to be interesting to see what all four of these teams have in store. But yeah, it should be an interesting semis for both.
Yeah, and just bringing it back home to the United States quickly. I know some of the other stars of the teams we just mentioned that they're going to retire after this World Cup. With the Americans, hopefully you put some more money. As we talked about this a little bit last week, but I just want to reiterate again. Hopefully you can get some sponsors. You can put some more money into the men's soccer program. I know the pay-for-play thing is a big hurdle, but you get just cultivate some of those young stars, get some of the other stars that can make a 3 or 4 year commitment. I think that the USA men's soccer team will be okay. They generate a lot of interest this year, even though the majority of the games were on American soil. You got to capitalize on this momentum. Look how the other countries have done it. Replicate some of that. Keep your main stars here, and I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, I think we've been having this conversation for like 30 years now with people, so I don't think anybody really knows the answer to it. I mean, we keep saying that, this is going to be the year that soccer finally breaks through in the United States. I haven't seen it yet. I'm thinking that maybe it'll probably fall to the wayside like it has been. We'll have to wait and see, but I just think that it's like I said, I've been hearing this for like 30 years, and I don't think it's going to change, but we'll have to wait and see.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena here, kicking it with you in our sports potpourri segment. Now let's transition over to tennis. LaKeena saw a couple of clips on YouTube with both of the matches. They were very competitive, as you mentioned. We have a repeat champion on the men's side. We have a new champion on the women's side.
Yeah, we'll start with the women's side first. It was all Czechia final, and not really. I think like a lot of people thought about these two women, but Niskova, Laura Niskova, after coming back, she actually was down a break in that second set. She probably could have lost that match, but she didn't. She came back and won that second set and win the match 6-3. It's her first championship. And so they're actually old friends, so they can actually go back a ways. So, but it's gonna be interesting to see. Of course, she beat Madison Keys in the round of 16. Everybody said that she would win, and she did just that. She's only 21, so she definitely has some hard court experience and also grass court. So, could this be a start of maybe some tournaments, Grand Slam tournaments? We'll have to wait and see. But she's definitely got the game to do it in the mindset. So she came back, from a break, a set and a breakdown. So she could definitely, perhaps maybe win multiple. She might be one of the favorites going to the U.S. Open. We'll see.
Yeah, you like players that can play in all types of conditions. They can adjust on the fly. And ultimately, it comes down to, can you beat the person in front of you to beat the person next to you? And like you said, that's what she did last Saturday. Like I said, I saw a couple of clips right here on YouTube, and I was very impressed. It takes a little bit more than the average bear, in my opinion, to impress me. But it was a heck of a match, and like you said, after losing the first set, she came back and won. So, like you said, the U.S. Open could get that much more interesting. I think it will get that much more interesting on the women's side come the fall. So, like I said, folks like Madison Keys, my girl, and Coco Gauff, they better be ready. Osaka, they better be ready, because she's no joke. So, like I said, we'll see what happens, of the late August, early September in the U.S. Open.
Yeah, she seems like she seems to have a nice personality as well. If you heard her interviews and stuff like that, so that was actually pretty fun. And I remember we talked about when she beat Maddie Keys. She emulated a lot of her game after her. So I think, look, like I said, she's only 21, so she could definitely be the new next big star on women's tennis, and that's right there. Now the men's side, Jannik Sinner goes back to back. He lost the first set against Alexander Zverev, but he came back. Won the tie break. He actually had won like 20 games in the third set, I should say, to win that, and also had a 23 point rally. Prior to that, got to match point. Of course, he ended up winning that match, his 5th Grand Slam title, and was able to defend his title. And look, Sinner's one of those players. Like I said, I know Zverev took a spill in the middle of that third set, and it got a little slick, and of course, he slipped and fell. But Sinner, being the classy player that he is, came in and picked him up. So that was really cool from that vantage point. But look, I think he's also the defending champ over at the U.S. Open. And of course, no warning if Alcaraz will be back by then. You got to think he'll definitely be. And of course, I'm sure he's going to have nightmares about. He had a chance to get that Grand Slam at the French Open, but the heat got to him. And of course, I think he actually made a joke that thankfully it got cooler as the week went on, as the past week went on. For of course, I think, like you said, the heat wave has been going on over there in Western Europe, but he's been able to come in and showed you why he's one of the top players in the world.
Yeah, we talk about Djokovic and some of the other guys, the foreign guys that has dominated the male tennis circuit over the last decade, in my opinion. Sinner, you mentioned, is your back-to-back champion. Could he be the new face of men's tennis? I'm not going to touch on the Americans today. We talked about that last week, but after the second set, as you mentioned, where he broke the tiebreak, it was total domination. Excuse me. After that, 6-3 and 6-4 to take home the title. But could we see a quiet, I'm using air quotes here, can we see a quiet dynasty being created in the making for Mr. Sinner?
Yeah, he can.
I think that we could be watching it, but not too many people are talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, look, he's only a French Open away from getting that Grand Slam. Like I said, he missed his chance of getting it, of course, with Alcaraz being out. But I think even like Patrick McEnroe even said during the broadcast, he needs a rival. And Zverev, look, to his credit though, Zverev came back and proved that. Look, I think the further he got at Wimbledon was the round of 16. So this is a big accomplishment. We got to make it to the finals. So I think he definitely is, with the French Open wins, could play with a newfound confidence. So no worry. Well, hopefully Alcaraz will be back by the U.S. Open, so we kind of get that Alcaraz-Sinner matchup perhaps in the men's final. But yeah, so there could definitely be on the come up to perhaps maybe winning multiple Grand Slams again.
Yeah, it's another rivalry. So that's one of the many reasons why we love sports. And in tennis, we always talk about rivalries with McEnroe, Agassi, Jimmy Connors, of course, Steffi Graf, whoever she faced back in the late '80s, early '90s. Of course, Chris Everett. I know she's going through a health challenge right now. We wish her very best with her. And Jennifer Capriati, she was up there for a while. Of course, Pete Sampras and Agassi had that rivalry in the '90s and the early 2000s. So rivalries drive up interest at any sport, and tennis is no exception here. So, like I said, we get that in the U.S. Open, it'll definitely bring some more eyeballs to the TV and the streaming circuits.
Yeah, I'm dying to see what the ratings are for both for the Wimbledon. I know the Wimbledon. I know they got good ratings during the first week. We'll see what happens in the second week, especially going into the finals, especially the men's final, of course, with the later start. Well, both the finals being the later start, because remember they moved it back to 2:00 Central Time. Well, not 10 o'clock, I should say Central Time. I guess to accommodate. It's brunch Wimbledon, I guess you can say now at 10 a.m. Here in Chicago, but. Yeah, so it should get good ratings. Like I said, both finals were actually really solid and entertaining. So yeah, I think if you're ESPN, you're pretty happy you'll go into the U.S. Open series.
Right. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you. I know we'll have Old School TV Monday saluting the city of Philadelphia coming up to close out the show, but we still have some time left, LaKeena. I wanted to get my thoughts out quickly about the White Sox Alumni Home Run Derby. Of course, you had 6 competitors competing for this. Larry Garcia, hashtag Larry Legend, he ended up winning the whole thing, beating out Gordon Beckham in the finals. She also had Jose Canseco, Brian Anderson, a.k.a. B.A. He replaced Alexander Ramirez at the last second. Also, you had Scott Podsednik, the Game 2 hero of the 2005 World Series team as well. I stayed in the park for the whole thing last Saturday. Someone told me, whispering in my ear, this was fun bad. And I kind of laughed at it. I said, yeah, was this the greatest of all time? No, but it was quite entertaining. Jose Canseco barely got into the next round. You could tell that with some of the older guys that they started to tire out. Brian Anderson as well, even though he's around our age. But, Scott Podsednik came up with a big 0 in the home runs. He had no home runs. But Lurie Garcia, who got out of baseball a few years ago, he had to struggle from start to finish. Gordon Beckham kind of picked it up early on, but he teetered out in the final round, losing to Garcia. It was kind of entertaining. I know Jose Canseco brought the entertainment part a little bit. He got the loudest ovation. Obviously, he played 1 year with the White Sox in 2001. Would I be upset if the White Sox organization brought this back next year? No, but you had to get some bigger names. Obviously, Frank Thomas won't be available because he's suing the team right now. But if you get guys like A.J. Brzezinski, if he's not working that week for Fox, I know some people say Jim told me he's too old. It's not going to happen. We'll talk about his son in just a moment, but get guys like AJ Brzezinski, Paul Konerko, maybe Jermaine Dye if he's interested in doing it. El Caballo, Carlos Lee from back in the day from that 2000 division winning team. My guy Max Adoyas, if he's interested in doing it. If you get some of the bigger names that are still healthy enough and capable enough to do this, I think the White Sox will try to pull this off again next year. I don't know if you saw the clips on YouTube, you get a chance to see any of the clips, but it was kind of entertaining. Was it the greatest of all time? No. Was it terrible? No. But it was a C+. I'll give it a C+.
Yeah, I mean, it was a clip in the book. This is only the first, so I'm sure they'll do it again next year with the bigger names. I think Lurie Garcia, I think I said earlier that don't be surprised if he ends up winning it, and that's what he did. But yeah, I would say get some of the bigger names. See if you can get a Carlos Quentin to come in, and you said Max Ordonez and such. AJ Brzezinski I think would make it very lively and entertaining, but it's gonna be hard for him to do because of course you've got other broadcast commitments with Fox. So I think that's gonna be hard to try to get him to come in. Paulie, yeah, I mean, again, same thing. I don't know if he would want to do it, but I mean, look, it's only the first one. I mean, it was kind of cringeworthy from what I can tell at times. But again, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's gonna be an interesting it was definitely interesting yesterday, but yeah, but I kind of I kind of liked it. Like it was okay, but for what I did see, but again, I'm sure they'll have it again next year, and of course, hopefully, we'll have bigger names.
Yeah. Also, too, I forgot to mention Daniel Parker, the only left-hander in the competition. He only hit a couple home runs. He did not advance to the next round. So, Lurie Legend Garcia, of course, he's known for hitting that big home run in Game 3 of the 2021 Division Series against Houston. The lone win of that series for the Chicago White Sox for that 2021 team. Of course, they lost to the Astros in 4 games. But Lurie Legend is your inaugural 2026 White Sox alumni home run derby champion.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, St. Brown with you. Now the MLB draft was commenced and actually still going on right now. Of course, as we speak, the White Sox got the number 1 pick, and of course they went to Rock Chalosky from UCLA. He was brought on. They brought on for the first pitch and stuff yesterday. So that kind of part of it, it'll be a while before some of these guys you'll see, in these rosters, but some of them of notes, Landon Tomei, of course, who is the son of Jim Tomei, speaking of the aforementioned, they picked him in the 4th round. So yeah, I mean, a couple of notes from yesterday, those draft picks and whatnot. Now the Cubs, as far as the Cubs are concerned, they got Carson Jasa from at 96 and such, and also too they got a couple other picks as well. So like I said, some of these picks, I know. It's gonna be interesting to see. You probably will see some of these guys for another couple years or so. I know also Ole Miss righty Cade Townsend. Of course, he's been already been pitching with the group at the draft combine. Yes, they have the MLB draft combine, but they took him the 1st round. So again, you might see some of these guys at some point, but again, solid picks by both teams.
Yeah, I was at the ballpark all weekend for the last couple of days, of course, when the announcement was made that Roger Lasky was going to the White Sox. You had a big roar from the crowd that showed up early before Saturday's game against the Athletics. And, of course, I was joking with a couple of guys in the stands that it would have been a bigger story if the White Sox didn't draft Chalowski. But, the White Sox got their man from UCLA. He's a 5-tool player, playing shortstop. He's a very good defender. He can hit, he can run, he can steal bases as well. I know many people want him up here right now. That's not going to happen. They're definitely going to start him out in A-ball. He may get an invite to spring training, whether or not we'll have it next year on time, but now that remains to be seen. But I know some Sox fans are worried about how quickly can he get here next year if everything goes well. I wouldn't say he will be here at the start of next year. I'll see that happening. He's definitely got to get some seasoning down there in the minor leagues. Will he be back up here exactly 1 year from now on the calendar? I doubt that. Maybe he'll be a September call-up. I don't know. But listening to him with that interview with John Shriver and Steve Stone, he was up in the booth with them yesterday. No, I did not catch him live and in person, unfortunately. But, this kid seems like, he's very humble. He talked about his visit to Chicago back in early June when they were playing the Braves. He said he saw Brady Montgomery hit that home run. He liked the city, walking around until 2 o'clock in the morning that night. And he was very impressed by the White Sox organization. He wanted to play for them. Now he gets to live out his dream. Seems like a very humble young man. He's ready to go to work, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I know. I heard Cade Townsend say the same thing. I know he had already been working with the Cubs staff, and he seems like a really good kid too. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it'll be a couple of years before we see some of these guys out there up in the majors. But like I said, it's going to be interesting to see, what it's good to see, teams kind of, players kind of lit out their dreams. I know the MLB draft system it's a little bit different than the rest, but like I said, it's good to see stories about guys and such. Of course, Landon Tomei, of course, and other sons of other former MLB players. It makes you feel old, seeing some of these guys now. So, but yeah, I think you'll be seeing some of these guys down the line.
Yeah. And pulling the page out of your playbook, LaKeena, it's going to be interesting to see how the ratings are for the MLB draft. Of course, like I said, I was at the park Saturday, so I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing. But I know that NBC showcased broadcast, I believe, the first round, and then the rest of it was on Peacock and MLB Network. So with Cholowski being the quote unquote number one player, he was selected by the Chicago White Sox, not the Chicago Cubs, but he's a top prospect. Emerson, the high schooler, was the next best prospect. Of course, you mentioned about Landon Tomey, even though he's technically still in high school, he was selected by the White Sox later on in the draft. So the baseball tried to milk this thing out as possible with NBC. This is their first time doing it this year. They used the MLB Network guys and Jim Dowd and Harold Reynolds, and of course, Great Amsinger, who's an amazing host, headline that coverage. It's going to be interesting what those ratings are, because MLB is trying to set this up like the NFL draft. They're not the NFL draft, like you said. We don't see these guys for at least the next 2 or 3 years on a Major League Baseball field. So you don't have the anticipation like you do to a lesser extent the NHL draft as well. But especially in the NBA and the NFL drafts, we expect to see these rookies right away, and they're touted up to be can't-miss stars and instant impact players. So with baseball here, you won't get to see them for at least the next couple of years, 2 or 3 years. But unlike other sports, we get to see these guys at least right away to see how they do with their new teams that they were drafted by.
Yeah, so we'll see how this goes here. Just so I can see Sports on Sports, Chicago, LaKeena, McGee, City Brown with you as we go. Going to before we get to Old School TV Monday. Just a reminder though, the SPs will be this Wednesday. They'll make their return to New York City for the first time in I think like about 11 years or so. It's going to be over at the David H. Koch Theater over at the Lincoln Center, and of course, it'll be hosted. So who'll be hosting the ESPYs? Well, again, if you're an SNL person, you probably know who this guy is, Marcelo Hernandez. I know he's a Canadian born comedian. I know he's been on SNL for like the last, I think, like 2-3 years. So it'll be interesting to see how the Rays will be. Usually the Rays are okay, but I expect the New York Knicks. I guess that could probably dominate. I'm sure. The Knicks will probably win Team of the Year. Of course, Russell will probably win like championship performance. If you could see a lot of the Olympic. I know Alyssa Liu is nominated for a couple. Fernando Mendoza make clean up on the college side. For that. But yeah. So if you guys want to, you can check it out on ESPN at 7:00 on ESPN and ABC. It'll be simulcasting there.
I know the ESPYs have had various interesting hosts throughout the years. Peyton Manning, the rapper Drake, of course, Serena Williams a few years ago. I still scratching my head about that one. But let's see what this new guy from SNL does. And to see it, like I say, return to New York City for the first time in about a decade and a half. Like I said, the New York Knicks will get a lot of love. They'll be mentioned, I'm sure, a bunch of times during that broadcast. I don't know about you, LaKeena. Maybe it's just me, but I haven't heard that much hype about the ESPYs this year. I know they usually do it around this time because of the MLB All-Star break, and they usually get most of the stars, especially the NFL stars, in there before they start training camp and whatnot. The NBA is off for the summer, and the NHL is off for the summer as well. But maybe it's just me, but I haven't had very much hype about the ESPYs this year. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
No. I don't think it's just you. I think usually like every other commercial, especially since I watch a lot of ABC during the day, I haven't seen it say it too much. I haven't seen it on GMA. I would have thought, especially since it's going to be in New York City, I would have thought they may wrap it up. I think maybe tomorrow. I think they're going to have Marcelo Hernandez there to promote it. I'm sure. So I don't know, but again, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, they're going to be hyping about the Super Bowl coming up too. So I guess they're going to be using this as an opportunity to do that. But
yeah. So, like I said, we'll see what happens there. Before we salute the city of Philadelphia for Old School TV Monday, anything else that you'd like to get off your chest? No pun intended. Before we close out with a special edition of Old School TV Monday.
No, not really. Let's get into it. And if you haven't heard my clues from some of my salutations for the last hour or so, well, what's wrong with y'all? But again, we're going to Philly, of course. Now we already did the Fresh Prince already. We also did Boy Meets World. And well, there is one show that we thought about perhaps maybe doing for Old School TV Monday, and we might as well do it now since the All-Star Game is in Philly. So, and we're gonna go a little animated here. So, Sid, take it away.
Yeah, we were saluting Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. That's right. It was often referred to as simply as Fat Albert. It was an American educational animated television series created, produced, and hosted in live-action bookends by comedian Bill Cosby, who also lent his voice to a number of characters, including Fat Albert himself. Filmation was the production company for the series, and the show premiered in 1972 and aired until 1985, with new episodes being produced during that time frame. The show was based on Cosby's remembrance of his childhood gang, focused on Fat Albert, known for his catchphrase, "Hey, hey, hey," and his friends. The show featured an educational lesson in each episode, emphasized by Cosby's live action segments. In addition, at the end of the early episodes, the gang typically joins in the North Philadelphia junkyard to play a song on their cobbled together instruments, summarizing the show's lesson. The New York Times noted that the show's quote unquote enjoyed enormous success throughout its run. The show's success also led Cosby to create a second animated series, Little Bill, in the late 1990s. Little Bill was intentionally designed to be visually different from Fat Albert, while retaining similar educational lessons and roots in Cosby's childhood experiences.
Yeah, the original Fat Albert, the first episode, special, if you will, aired in 1969. And then, of course, it kind of spearheaded on after that. And some of your favorite characters, and a lot of this was voiced by Cosby as himself, but there were some that weren't, of course, Mushmouth, remember him. Dumb Donald, who I always felt was misunderstood, I always thought Dumb Donald was misunderstood, not dumb. I think he was just misunderstood. That's just how I felt about him.
Yeah.
Russell, Rudy, and Bucky. So yeah, those were some of the kind of like the mainstays of the gang here. Now, to their credit, though, they actually did like all types of issues, some serious issues, like the kid stuff, like fighting and personal hygiene and stuff like that, little kid stuff. But they did go with some more serious stuff. They dealt with racism, they dealt with smoking, they even dealt with rape, they dealt with teen pregnancy and STDs and gun violence and such, and even death. And like I said, you give them all the credit in the world, because a lot of cartoons, none of the cartoons were doing that. But it did tend to get a little bit preachy at times. So I think that's what some of especially with the more serious ones, they kind of lost me with some of those. But I'm glad that I give them credit for, wanting to deal, to kind of, bring upon those issues, especially to younger kids. So that's never a bad thing to do, but it could get a little bit preachy. That's what and we talked about with some of the other shows that did those types of things. Some did it better than others, but with the music and dancing and such. So I think this is a really cute way to kind of get people to kind of at least to talk about it at the very least.
Right, and we all know that Bill Cosby's history due to other shows that we've done on Old School TV Monday. Of course, his own The Cosby Show that ran for 8 years on NBC, and of course, Different World. He's always been known to use education as a tool to get his message out to the masses. Like you said, with Fat Albert, the Cosby Kids, it was no different. Of course, you use the music and the fun to ease that message in, so it wouldn't be as heavy to younger viewers and listeners. And speaking of the Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, as I mentioned, it ran for 8 years, 8 seasons, 110 episodes, including 5 television specials. And the opening theme song was called "Gonna Have a Good Time," the Fat Albert theme, performed by Michael Gray, and that was very famous. And speaking of being famous, LaKeena, you remember this before every episode. Bill Cosby said this famous phrase: "This is Bill Cosby coming at you with lots of music and fun. If you're not careful, you may learn something before it's done." Okay, let's get ready. Okay, Fat Albert voice, hey, hey, hey. And of course, the episode, each episode began with that phrase. So, he gave you fair warning before each episode. And of course, you mentioned they dealt with various issues, and they made it fun and made it interesting for all types of viewers, not just the young kids, but for adults who had kids as well.
Yeah, of course. The music from the original primetime pilot there in 1969 was by Chicago's very own Herbie Hancock. He did the music scores for those, and the specials. Of course, they had a Halloween special. And also the Christmas special. I remember the Christmas special because they aired that for years, every Christmas on both. I think on CBS and I think when it aired on syndication. Also, they had an Easter special as well that aired in 1982. So CBS, of course, their credit. Of course, they showcase a lot of that. A lot of those shows and all those episodes and the specials are on YouTube. So if you're looking for those, some are hard to find, but but I think a lot of them are. I don't know if all of them are on there, but I know all the TV specials are on there. I don't think the pilot's on there. The pilot's kind of hard to find nowadays. But some of the other ones, I know the Christmas specials on YouTube, and also the Halloween specials as well. That was actually pretty funny too. But yeah, some of the other some of the stars before they were stars, if you will, that voiced some of these. Of course, Frank Welker, who of course did a lot of those Hanna-Barbera episodes. Also, Greg Morris, yes, that Greg Morris from the original Mission Impossible. He voiced a couple episodes of Fat Albert. So yeah, I think that was really interesting, a little tidbit there that I learned, and we're all doing research for this. But yeah, so they don't, like I said, they don't show the episodes anymore because some of those episodes are on YouTube. It's right there if you guys want to check it out.
All right, a couple of fun facts before we close it out for this week's edition of Old School TV Monday. Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids was named the 82nd best animated TV series by IGN, and they received an Emmy nomination in 1974. In 1993, TV Guide magazine named Fat Albert the best cartoon series of the 1970s in its issue celebrating 40 years of television. And in 2002, Fat Albert was placed at number 12 on TV Guide's list of the 50 greatest cartoon characters of all time.
All right, so for Old School TV Monday, we salute from Philadelphia-based cartoon Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids.
All right, LaKeena, take us home.
You follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter, Xpenos on the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live to live in color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Well, again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in live in color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Of course, you can catch, if you missed our segment when it comes to Fat Albert and other shows and specials and movies that we do for Old School TV Monday. And of course, when we do our NFL picks coming up in a couple of months, and also to an interview and so much more. No worries, you can catch the replays anytime, anywhere on Sports Zone Chicago's specific YouTube channels. You can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas, and so much more. You can catch the replays anytime, anywhere on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
Enjoy the All-Star festivities out there at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. I think the Chicago Sky play, tomorrow. Let me look that up real quick. They're not.
Also tougher last night at Dallas.
Yeah, I know. I saw the highlights of that. I don't think they play again. Yeah, they played. Yeah. I saw that last night. I don't think they play again till Friday. So there is some WNBA action out there for you. But yeah, so enjoy the. I know it's gonna be hot in some parts of the country again. Coming up. So drink some water. Take care of your kids, your young kids, and your pets, and checking on your elderly friends and family members, especially. So yeah, so just take a pace yourself, folks. If you do gotta go out, and be careful out there. For Sid, I'm LaKeena for Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you guys on Friday.
Nah, gonna have a good time. Holla!